Hello and welcome into the Week 8 edition of the ETSN.fm podcast. I'm Clint Buckley and I'm joined by Chandler Vessels. Just 4 more weeks until the playoffs begin as the regular season finish line is inching closer. We got some big district games on the horizon this week, Chandler, and we're going to get you ready for Friday night. But first, our fandom is beginning to affect us professionally. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I'm a huge Houston Astros fan, and they're playing in the ALCS this week against the Yankees. I went to the game Saturday, which was a day game in Houston, and it's about a 3.5-hour drive from Tyler to downtown. And what we do on Friday nights, we're usually not finished until 3 in the morning. So not a whole lot of sleep. Had to get up early in the morning and drive down to Houston. Needless to say, I was very exhausted after the game. On the way home, I just crashed once I got back home. Chandler, you being an Oklahoma State grad, you've been looking for a chance to get to a game since you graduated, and it's this week. That's good news, but it's also some bad news.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to go to Austin to watch OSU take on Texas, but it's an 11 a.m. kick, so I might even get less sleep, I think, than you did last week because I'm probably gonna have to leave at like 5 a.m. just to beat traffic and get to the game on time. But I'm excited to go. I wanted to watch OSU. They've been having a great season this year, except for that one loss against TCU. But I'm excited to go. I'll probably get to see a few friends from college too that'll be down there, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, well, my advice to you would maybe just not sleep because if we get done at the normal time when we normally get done, you'll have maybe 2 hours if you're going to leave at 5. So it might be best just to drink a lot of coffee or some no-dos or something to keep you awake on the drive down.
Energy
so
drinks.
Yes, yeah. So stock up on the Monsters. If you're into those energy drinks, but. Before Chandler can head down to Austin, we have some business to take care of up here in East Texas. As we mentioned before, it's a big week of high school games. You've got a tremendous slate across East Texas. And the first one we're going to talk about is John Tyler against Rockwall Heath. This is a huge District 11 6A game. John Tyler, really a disheartening 48-7 loss to begin district against Rockwall. But they've since come back. They've won 2 in a row, and they still have the 2 district frontrunners on their schedule. So they have a chance to make some noise and possibly win the district if they can take care of Rockwall Heath and both Mesquite Horn, which is later on in the season. But first things first, they got to take on Heath, and as I mentioned, they're undefeated in 11-6A. They're 3-0, one of just 2 teams, them and Horn. John Tyler is going to have to play good defense, I think, because Rockwall Heath, while they're not explosive on offense, they grind it out. They're happy with 3-4 yards at a time because they can keep the other team's offense off the field. They can wear down the opposing defense in the second half. That's kind of been their MO this year. I saw them against Lee a few weeks ago, and that was sort of the same mindset that I expect them to have this week against John Tyler. And really, Heath has been getting it done really with just one player on offense, and that's been Tanner McAllister, their tremendous senior running back who is committed to Arkansas, but as a defensive back. He already has almost 1,000 yards on the ground through 6 games, and he's really turned it up the last 4. He's averaging over 200 yards per game over the last 4 games. He's going to be a big key, obviously, for John Tyler's defense if they want to get off the field on 3rd down. I think another big key is how they play on 1st and 2nd down. You got to get Heath, a team that doesn't like to throw the ball, into some obvious passing situations. And I think if John Tyler can do that, they're good enough offensively, I think, to score more points than Heath. But they have to have the ball to do that. So they need as many offensive possessions as they can get. And to do that, they're going to have to lengthen the game by not letting Heath shorten it with their grinded out attack on offense. I'm looking forward to that one. That's probably the big game in District 11 6A this week. John Tyler 4-2 overall, 2-1 in district, and then Rockwall Heath is 5-1, 3-0. Another big one this week is Mineola versus Mount Vernon. That's kind of our game of the week this week. It's turned into a massive district showdown. You've got the defending state champs, Mineola, after a rough start. They've kind of rebounded. They've won their first couple of district games. And then how about Mount Vernon? Coming into this thing 7-0, playing great all-around football. I know you're excited to cover this. You'll be there on Mount Vernon on Friday. What should we expect?
Yeah, I'll be there. It's like you said, it's going to be a big game. I think this could end up determining who's the district champion for 7-3A. because, as you said, Mineola, defending state champs, they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're undefeated in district so far. And then Mount Vernon obviously is undefeated overall so far. So it's going to be a good showdown. I think it's going to come down to, this is going to sound kind of obvious, but Mineola's ability to put up points, This Mount Vernon defense has been pretty stingy this season. They're only allowing 11 points per game. So it's going to be Mineola's offense. If they can maybe sort of get over that 11-point barrier,
right,
they're going to have a better chance to win this game. And I think a player to watch for them is going to be their quarterback, Shaw Franklin. He can get it done through the air as well as on the ground. He's their leading rusher, as well as having over 700 pass yards, 13 total touchdowns. So I'd really watch him this game. As far as for Mount Vernon on offense, they really like to run the ball. They're averaging over 300 yards rushing per game. So and they do that with multiple guys, obviously. Mineola's not only going to have to play good offense, but they're going to have to be able to stop that rushing attack with their guys up front.
Yeah, this is very intriguing to me because, at the beginning of the season, you told me Mineola, Mount Vernon. I was like, yeah, Mineola's kind of down. Mount Vernon's playing great. I wouldn't think this would be that competitive, but Mineola's really turned it on. They had a really impressive win last week against Farmersville, who was previously unbeaten in district. So there's a lot of things to like about this game. I'm a little bit jealous that you're going to be there. And see it because I think this has the potential to be one of the best games of the year in East Texas because Mineola was going to go through some rough patches early in the season because they lost so many kids from the state championship team, new quarterback, new running back, new everything pretty much, new head coach. So it's good to see Mineola kind of bounce back after just a rough start because you don't want to see a defending state champion kind of wallow back into mediocrity right away. You want to see them at least put up at least another playoff run to kind of finish things off at Mineola. So looking forward to that one. Another big one this week is Henderson versus Kilgore, 9-4A. These two teams have something in common. They're both coming off losses to Carthage, and they're probably going to want to take their frustration out on one another on Friday night. And I don't think these two teams are going to be in the best of moods. At least Henderson's had a week off to kind of reflect. Kilgore's coming right off of it, 50-20 loss against Carthage. Kilgore, like we mentioned last week, and talking about Kilgore and Carthage, they have three players that do the heavy lifting on the offensive side of the ball, and they're all runners. They got the quarterback Buddy Jackson, and their two running backs Bryant Mumphrey and Javory Hamilton. They also have another couple of guys that get in there as well, Jaden Zachary and Nick Hooper. But those three guys, Jackson, Mumphrey, and Hamilton, are the keys to the Kilgore offense, and they're averaging 375 yards rushing per game. They need to keep that up this week against Henderson because Henderson, like I said, they've had a week off to kind of go back to the drawing board because their performance against Carthage wasn't very good. I know Carthage is great, and they've pretty much beaten down every opponent that they've played this year, but Henderson, there was just something off about them in that game 2 weeks ago. They weren't able to move the ball very well, which is odd considering they have one of the best quarterbacks in the area in Trey Hall. And I think that this might be the time of the year where Trey Hall needs to kind of take over for them. He's kind of been held in check passing-wise. He's only attempted 70 passes through 6 games, and he's got a great arm. I saw a little bit of it against Carthage. He was able to make some nice throws late in that game. When he had time, he was good. And that'll be a key for Henderson's offensive line is to see if they can block a little bit better than they did against Carthage. Kilgore's not as good defensively as Carthage, so I think Henderson can make some adjustments and be better at least protecting the quarterback. And I think it's time for Trey Hall. He's a senior. This is really his team. Last year they lost 2 Division I signees, Tristan Ebner, LaKendrick Van Zant. This is his team. This is the time for him to shine, and this might just be the perfect time for him to do it against Kilgore. And really a game that's become for second place in that district because I think Carthage, they're not going to lose the rest of the way. They've kind of gone through the toughest part of their schedule. So I'm looking forward to it, Henderson and Kilgore. Other big games, we got Greenville against Marshall in a battle for sole possession of 16-5A. Both of those two teams are undefeated. Greenville kind of comes out of nowhere. They've kind of been a laughingstock program the last decade or so, but they've really come on to beat Pine Tree last week to stay undefeated in district, and of course Marshall has really turned it around. They've won 3 in a row after starting 0-4. Ennis against Lindale in a battle of teams that won their district opener in 17-5A last week. The winner of that has an inside track at perhaps a district championship. And then one more big one in 6A, 12-6A, Lufkin at Beaumont Westbrook. It played out this way last year, and it could again this year. This is probably going to be for the first round home field advantage in 6A Division II playoffs, because these two teams are the smallest schools of the playoff qualifiers, more than likely, in District 12 6A. So the winner of this one will have the head-to-head in case of a tie, and we'll get to host a first-round playoff game against the number 2 seed from 11 6A in that by-district matchup. And last year, Beaumont Westbrook beat Lufkin, and they got a chance to host Longview, which finished behind John Tyler in 11 6A in Division II. So the winner of this one is looking good for hosting a first-round playoff game. I mean, obviously, there's still 3 more weeks after this before that all takes place, the playoffs. But that's a big one out in 12 6A, Lufkin at Beaumont Westbrook. Before we leave, we want to give a shout-out to our offensive and defensive players of the week. First on offense, it was Carthage senior running back Keontae Ingram. His best game of the year, 21 carries, 276 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 3 quarters. Did not play the fourth quarter as Carthage handed Kilgore a 50-20 loss. And on defense,
yeah, it's Case Yates out of Joaquin. He had 17 tackles, 4 for a loss last week, and a couple pass breakups in a 35-20 win over Alto for the Rams. So.
Joaquin is quietly 5-1. They got a big game this week against against Shelbyville, I believe, and then they have Carlisle and St. Augustine left. So the Rams 5-1. They're off to a good start. Congratulations to Case Yates, our defensive player of the week, and once again Keontae Ingram, our offensive player of the week. Before we get out of here, we want to make sure you hit up ETSN.fm this week for previews of all the big games like John Tyler Heath, Henderson-Kilgore, Mineola Mount Vernon, and others. If you haven't done so already, you can download the ETSN mobile app right now at the App Store or on Google Play. It's the best way to keep up with the best live scoreboard in East Texas, which is brought to you, of course, by America's Car Mart. As always, you can find Chandler and myself on Twitter. He's at Chandler Vessels. I'm at Clint Buckley, simple enough. Or you can hit us up on the mothership at ETSN.fm. Don't be afraid to give us your feedback, good or bad. We have thick skin. We can take it, I promise. Well, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. For Chandler Vessels, I'm Clint Buckley. Have a great weekend.